I'm Chris, also known as Velar or Vel. I'm currently 27 years old and I've lived a life of hell, loneliness, and misfortune, and disorders that never go away. And as such, it inspired me to seek out what the fuck all this bullshit existence actually is. I've had countless thoughts and ruminations in my solitude for so long, it's almost like it's to a point of torture. But hell has, in fact, made me smarter. And before I die, I have to put out at least a fraction of my philosophy out there. What I say here isn't my entire thought process or philosophy, but a good part of it. For the last 13 years, I've looked into a solid amount of data pertaining to science, history, philosophy, society, and the human condition, and I've come to certain conclusions about this absurd space that me and you find ourselves in. There's a great quote from one of my favorite rappers, MF Doom. He probably wasn't the first to say it, but I heard it from him. He says in a song, the more you know that you don't know shit. At first, I couldn't fully comprehend that, but now I do. I listen to lots of music, especially rap. In fact, if music wasn't a thing, I would have been dead a long time ago. But as far as this existence goes, it appears that we were ripped from a non existent state into this random and indifferent plane of existence in the form of a human being. Animals, which we are, seem to have a biological purpose, which most animals seem to have an instinct for to some extent, which is to reproduce as much as possible. And in turn, I suppose, take over the world to have their species in the best possible position. In the case of Homo sapiens, we practically already did that, even though most of humanity is unfortunately still in a shit position. And even if we didn't take over the planet yet, simply multiplying my species isn't a good enough reason for existing to me. And also, this still doesn't explain why we have to exist at all in the first place. So that naturally left me with this next thing, which is just make your own meaning for this bullshit life. You didn't ask to be here anyways. So try and enjoy yourself and do whatever the fuck you want within possibility, which is sensible, and I still think that way, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, I know even that doesn't matter, because in the grand scheme, nothing does, and it's as simple as that. Life is an involuntary experience. We're all born at a random time and place to random parents who have random beliefs on an insignificant planet in an insignificant solar system. We don't choose shit. Our race is random. Physical attributes, sexuality, mental capacity, birth defects, predispositions to certain things, etc. All for an unimaginably short blip of time. The Earth alone is 4.54 billion years old, and I believe scientists of the world say existence came about around 18 billion years ago. Humans can't even comprehend a length of time that outlandish, and usually we come here in bad circumstances and suffer. Try to cope with the suffering, often with detrimental things like drugs and religion, play zero-sum games, and die. I've learned that this is a realm full of chaos, destruction, confusion, and injustice. Karma isn't even real, nothing goes the way it should. Often the most evil scum live the most lavish, easy lives. Meanwhile, the best people are the ones always just used and fucked over. Doing good deeds doesn't get you anything. Taking the high road doesn't get you anything. The only slight karma that exists comes from other humans, not cosmically among the universe. That's why if you do good and nobody knows about it, nothing good will happen to you. Life is a bad joke. And with this being said, if a God does exist, it's clearly evil, because apparently this is its plan. And it doesn't intervene because it's sadistic. Or it can't intervene because it isn't powerful enough somehow, even though it supposedly made this whole existence. Yet in Christianity, for example, God needs to, for some reason, be worshipped, because he needs an ego boost from these unworthy Homo sapien apes he supposedly created, or you burn in hell. But I ain't worshiping no evil God. I don't believe there is one anyway. I'm an atheist because I find it to be the most sensible position by far. In the 11 years of me being an atheist, I constantly feel like I'm correct with this more and more and more. And you can't unsee it. Because as I like to say, how do you go from thinking 2 plus 2 equals 3, realizing that it equals 4, then going back to thinking 2 plus 2 equals 3? I see many people waking up nowadays to the bullshit of religion, which I see is very positive. However, we're getting outbred anyways. There have been hundreds of religions and sectors of religions that have come and gone, and when compared with reality and science, religion gets beat to a pulp. Maybe not as much at the time they were made, but definitely now since we actually know some things now. Or maybe next to nothing at all. Who knows? Creators of religion, as far as I see it, couldn't cope with the chaos and meaninglessness and unknowns of life. So they made up things like life origin stories, different deities, and so-called rules and morals to live life by. But outside of silly origin stories and scientific inaccuracies and blatant lies about reality, the biggest reason I hate religion is that most are just evil. Christianity, for example, condones slavery, homophobia, misogyny, strange behavior, and a lot of other dumb fucked up shit. The first commandment is, "You shall not have any gods before me." Exodus 23. To me, that says everyone born into another religion is going to your version of so-called hell that they don't even believe in and may not know about. That's a cult. That's a fear tactic. Religion will have your mind bottlenecked severely, unable to reach your full potential, and will have you waste your whole fucking life on some bullshit. It'll have you so psychotic and basically drugged, you won't want to know any better. I despise the way it makes people lose their natural curiosity and leaves them intellectually lazy. People really think that all you need to know about the existential questions of life all is within the fucking Bible, written by men who didn't know shit about anything. Not a deity, men. That's absurd by definition. With the most brainwashed people of all, I can see the brainwashing in their face, and it's crazy as fuck. Another thing I've noticed is when everything goes great or good enough in someone's life, they tend to not question shit about life or their dumbass religion. Religion has slowed human progress so badly that, in my opinion, it's the scourge of humanity and will be a major contributing factor in our extinction. I consider it the worst drug on the planet. Why is the Bible true? Because it says it's true. As far as I can tell, the most accurate method of understanding reality as it actually is science. And there will always be more questions popping up out of scientific discoveries. Science, and simply looking around without a blind eye and denying what I'm seeing and hearing, made me become an atheist. Because if God is real, why would He want me to be an ignorant person? Then I started to know stuff, and I figured out God probably doesn't exist anyway. Many people on the internet opened my eyes up on this topic, but the biggest shout out I can give is to the amazing atheist. One thing I remember was that in the exact moment I fully admitted to myself that I don't believe God exists. When I was 16, I felt my mind transcend and my mental capacity expand and break out of that cage it was in, not only mentally but almost physically. It was a crazy feeling, and I haven't felt anything like it since. It felt like I reached nirvana or something, which is an ironic and kind of funny way to describe it. I realize this part on religion got dragged out a bit, but that was unintentional. The next thing I want to talk about is human extinction. Since I mentioned it earlier, it is something that at this point I see as something positive, and that'll come in the next 150 years, if that. Almost all species that ever existed on this planet aren't here anymore. Why would humanity be any different? We're greatly flawed animals and will be our own destruction. That's just fine though, because I mostly subscribe to antinatalism, which is basically the belief that people that are alive shouldn't be having kids, to prevent a whole life of suffering to be added to the world. The only disagreement I have with it is I say go ahead and have a kid if you're rich. Other than that, why have kids? I also subscribe to pro-mortalism, which is a subsector of antinatalism, which states that humanity should cease to exist altogether to prevent suffering. Sometimes I hear stories of crazy, unfortunate, torturous things that make me wonder why this place has to even be a thing. Some people love this place though and love life. Some people are content with nothing. Content with nothing as long as they have certain copes. I feel like most people's lives here are depressing as fuck, even if they don't realize it. I feel like this is getting pretty long, so I won't touch on a few other things that are bullshit, such as this goddamn society I live in, the bullshit system and rat race here in the US, and the corruption in governments and gangs all over the world, and or even the almighty bitch ass dollar. Those are some other things that are horrible in my view, but probably didn't really have to be. By the way, I'm aware that few people will see this, and I don't care. I know the average person will see a title like this and automatically start thinking whoever made that video has some sort of thing wrong with them. That I'm evil, I worship the devil or something like that, or whatever other weird shit their normie minds come up with. I know they don't want their psychedelic reality challenged by anything I stated here, so they will likely avoid this video. Or maybe they'll watch it. Either way, thanks for listening. Peace out. It's been Vel.